We're going to start today with a little starter, a little number starter, and then I'll give you some feedback on the question I asked you to have a go at the end of last go, and then we'll carry on with a few more of those area and perimeter problems. Right, so this time we are going to look at a number tower. So a number tower is made by, sometimes they're called number pyramids, by adding together the two numbers beneath one square to tell you what's on the one above. So 2 add 8 is 10. 8 add 15 is 23. 15 add 24 is 39. 24 add 4 is 9. 4 add 5 is 9. We're not sure what goes here yet, but start thinking about it. So pause the video and have a little go, and then I will carry on sort of quite slowly, see if you can stay ahead of me. 17 plus 9 makes 26. 5 and 12 makes 17. 10 and 23 makes 33. 39 plus 28. What I would do there is I would add 40 to make 68, and then take 1 away to make 67, because 39 is 1 less than 40. 28 plus 10 is 38, take 1 is 37. So carrying on with that idea, we've got 95 there. 120 plus 9, 129. 90 plus 14 is 104. Adding these two together is 167. Adding these two together is the 5 and the 9 is 13. Then it's 10, 100 on top of 120, 224. Or 5 less than adding 100 on. That's probably the easier way. 224 plus 233. Well, 3 add 4 is 7. 2 add 3 is 5. And 2 add 2 is 4. So it's 457. 167. Oh, well, that's nice, because 67 and 33 are number bonds to 100. So that's going to make 400 altogether. And then add the last two together, and I reckon we've got 857. And if you think I've made a mistake, please let me know and I'll check it for you. This is the question I asked you to have a look at the end of last lesson and to upload to me. Now, a couple of you did that. A few others uploaded something to me, but to be honest, it was stuff from earlier on in the lesson. It would be really nice if you could do that more. Now, the people who did upload it to me, they both made the same mistake. They both said 64 divided by 4 is 16 centimetres. And that would be true if the perimeter was 64, but it's not the perimeter, is it? It's the area is 64. Now it's a square, and how do we work out the area of the square? We multiply one length by the other length, and I put an x there and an x there because, not to annoy you with algebra, but just to say they must be the same as each other. So we're looking for the number that you multiply by itself to get 64, which is the square root of 64. And this is the reason it's called a square root, because it's the root of a square. So if you know the area, it's the length of that side of it. It's where a square has come from, the length of each side being the same. So the square root of 64 is 8, because 8 times 8 is 64, and therefore it must be 8 there, 8 there, 8 there, and 8 there for all those 4 different lengths. So the perimeter of the square, the perimeter must be 8 times 4, which is 32 centimeters. So it wasn't that, but that's a good place to start. It shows you're thinking about what perimeter and perimeter is, but you've got to always be thinking about area and perimeter aren't the same thing. One's a measure of how many squares you could fit in something, the other is the length of the distance around the outside of the shape, and they're both on their own a little bit quite simple, but you can get very complicated very quickly, so always take it back and make it as simple as you can. So our next question is going to flip it round the other way. Write this down, have a real think about it, see if you can work out what's going on. So I would always start by making a sketch. Maths is a creative subject, folks. Do not think it's just a bunch of rules that are somehow held together, who knows how. It is creative. So I'm thinking that this distance, this plus this plus this plus this are equal to 36. Now I could do it in terms of algebra, because whatever the length is, it's going to be the same all the way round. So I've got 4x there, that plus that plus that plus that would make 4 of them, and that's added up to be 36. Now I can solve a simple equation like that by saying, right, 4 times x is 36, so to find out what x is, I divide by 4, and that gives me 8 fours are 36, so that gives me 8. Now I know that wasn't the question I was asked for, but in order to do the area of a square, I need to multiply the length by the width, or square one length as it's a square, because you've only got one sort of width. So therefore the area is going to be 8 times 8, so it is 64 centimeters squared. It's the same square that we were just looking at. Okay, moving on to question 9. We've got, in fact, pause the video now before I say anything, read through it all, have a real big long, and just work out anything you can. It's saying it wants the height h, but work out anything that you can that might be relevant. Right, now we know it's about area. So if it's about area, can I work out the area of this triangle? The area of a triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. Well, the base is 4, the height is 7, times 4 by 7 and divide it by 2. 28 divided by 2 is 14 centimeters squared. And there are 3 marks for this question. You get a mark for working that out. Now it says the area of the parallelogram is 4 times the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle is that. So area of parallelogram is going to be 14 times 4. You're going to get another mark for working out what the area of the parallelogram must be. 14 times 4, well, 10 fours are 40, plus another 4 fours, another 16 is 56. So I know the area of the parallelogram is 56. Now when we did areas of parallelogram, we said it was the base times the perpendicular height. So the perpendicular height is what we want. So that means that this area is 14 times height. And we know the area is 56. So I can say 14 times the height is equal to 56. So if I want to know what the height is, I need to divide by that 14, because I don't want 14 times as much as the height, I just want the height. 56 divided by 4, well, we've just done 4 14s make 56, so it must go back to 4. So the height of the value of h is 4. And we don't need the units here because it just says what's the value of h is 4, but it is always safe to put the units in. They won't take a mark off for having them in there. Another 3-mark question here. Take your time, you might want to look back at your notes about how to find the area of a trapezium, because that's all this is. So the area of a trapezium is a half times A plus B times the height. And A and B are the two parallel sides. So you could call A 5 and B 10 and 7 height. So it's a half, 5 plus 7 not 7, 10, because 10 was that one, and then the height is 7. So let's give that a go. So it's going to be a half times 5 plus 10 is 15, and times that by 7. So a half of 15 is 7.5, so 7.5 times 7. So how do we do 7.5 times 7? We'll begin by doing 75 times 7. 7 5s are 35. 7 7s are 49. Add in the 3 gets us 52 there, so 525. So if 75 times 7 is 525, if we have 10 times less, it's going to give us the same digits, but we need to divide the answer by that as well. And if you think about it, 7 7s are 49, so that makes sense, doesn't it? So that's going to give us 52.5 meters squared. Moving on to question 11. Here's another trapezium. It's on a grid. It says it's a centimetre grid, so you might not have exact centimetres on your printout. Doesn't matter, just treat it as if it is a centimetre. Pause the video, give it a go. So remember, we still want to use a half base times height, a half A plus B, isn't it, times the height. So I want you to, if you haven't done it already, identify the A and the B, the parallel sides. How long are they? And then the height. So A is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the height, H, is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we get a half of 4 plus 7 times 5. So 4 add 7 is 11, so we're talking a half of 11 times 5. Half of 11 is 5.5 times 5. Now, one way we could times something by 5, if we're not totally sure, is we could times it by 10 and then halve it. So 5.5 times 10 is 55. We're looking for half of 55. Half of 55. 2 goes into 5 twice with 1 remainder. 2 goes into 15 7 times, because 7 2s are 14, with 1 remainder, so we need to put a decimal point in and a 0 in there. 2 into 10 goes 5 times, so it's 27.5 centimeters squared. 2 questions to go. So another trapezium. So by now hopefully you should be getting into the swing of it. Pause it, give it a go. We've been given some different information here, haven't we? We've been told that the area, now we know the area, always a good idea, start off with the formula, and then we've been told the area, and we've been told 2 of the dimensions. So fill in what you know. You know the area is 30. If you hadn't done anything, but now think you could do, pause the video and have a go. The A is up here, the B is down there. There's our parallel sides. 3 plus 7, then that times the height. Okay, so now we need to work this out. 30 equals a half of 3 plus 7 is 10. That times by 10. So 30 equals a half of 10 is 5 times h, which we can just write like that, can't we? Now if I want to know what the height is, what number do you times by 5 to get 30, otherwise known as dividing by 5? Will give me what h is. So h is going to be 6 centimeters. It only says the value, so it wouldn't lose a mark for that, but it is, just always do it, just always put the units down. Okay, just one final question. Once again, pause it. This is just like the previous question, but with different numbers. So definitely have a go at this before watching me do it. So once again, just start by writing down the formula. That won't get you a mark, but you will get a mark if you fill in everything that's here. Even though there's only 2 marks here, if you fill in everything of that, put a half, 6 plus 9, it could be 9 plus 6, it doesn't matter because it's just the 2 parallel sides, times h. If you write that down, you've made an equation that would find out h. You've done half the work and you haven't actually worked anything out yet. So 45 is, but you have shown you know what the formula is and how it works. 6 plus 9 is 15. So I'm going to write this another way. 15, because we're doing half of it, you could just write it as 15 over 2 times h. So let's think about that. Well, do you know what we could do? Instead of going into decimals all the time, let's try it this way. Because this is all being divided by 2, if I multiply both sides by 2, that would give me 90 equals 15 times h, which I can write like that. And then all I need to do is divide that by 15. Now you may have done this a slightly different way, but if you have got 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 90, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as your answer, just like the one before, then you're right. And that's it for today, folks. So well done. This was Thursday, wasn't it? So we've got one more lesson for the week tomorrow. Tune in to find out what fun we'll have then.